Hi everyone! Thank you so much for joining me for my second episode of Live Magic with Lauren M. Today, my topic is going to be wigs. I'm not going to be covering how to restyle, refurbish, or anything like that, but I will be answering any questions today on commissioners, or base wigs, or how to fix something up just a little bit, how I keep my wigs nice. And I will even end up today showing you guys a little video of where I store my wigs right now, because I got that question. So I did make sure it looked a little nice today. So I will pick up my camera and I will show you guys where I store all my wigs towards the end of the video. So excited to be doing this yet again. It seemed like last week helped out a lot of people, so I'm really excited to be offering this to you guys again. So let me just pick up my little paper and I'll get right to it. So first, let me answer these questions and then I'll go through all the comments and check any of the questions that you guys put on there. Okay, so starting off, a question I got was best commissioners. So instead of answering the best commissioners, since different people do have different experiences with different commissioners, I will just be going over where I got all of my wigs. So the place that I have the most wigs from are Gleam and Glow Wigs. Now that is run by Nam Mai, and he only sells on Instagram. So if you want, I tag him in all of the pictures where I have a wig from him. So if you want to just follow one of those links to his page, that's where he sells his wigs. So from him I have Anna Braids, Anna Coronation, Belle, Ariel. Well, I have two Ariels, an Elsa, a Jane, an Aurora, a Snow White, and then I also have a Cinderella coming that I got from Bonnie, Grace King, and then my best friend Sarah, Chicago Princess Sarah, also has a Town Belle and an Elena from him. So I have seen all of those wigs up close and personal. So if you guys want to ask about any of those, I've had to restyle them, I've had to fix them up, I've had to smooth them over, and I've worn all of them at least once, most of them multiple times. So I have the most wigs from him. Then I also have a couple wigs from Royal Enchantments. So Royal Enchantments, I have a Merida, a Tinkerbell, and then my friend Chicago Princess Sarah has a Pocahontas. And again, those wigs are amazing, and she actually has some pretty cheap prices for how amazing quality her wigs are, so I would definitely check her out. She sells on Etsy, and then she also has an Instagram page. And then Bella Fantasia, I have her Cinderella, which is absolutely gorgeous. She actually used to style wigs for Disney World, and she did a Cinderella, the old Cinderella. So if you like the old Cinderella style, I would definitely go with her. Her wigs are absolutely gorgeous, and I have her Cinderella, and it's beautiful. And then Fairy Wig Mothers, I've actually had a few restyled from there, so if you need a restyle, you can check out Fairy Wig Mothers, and I've gotten my Ariel and Rapunzel restyled there, and then I've also bought an Elsa secondhand. That was from Fairy Wig Mothers, which is also great. And then my Rapunzel that I have is from Magical Designs, the one that I wear most of the time with the longer braid. That one's from Magical Designs, and it has stood up better than any other wig I've ever had. Somehow it's like indestructible. Kids have actually like laid on my head before, not sure why, but they have. And the bangs still stayed intact, the braid still stays. The only problem with that one is the bottom of it gets really, really tangly, so I have to brush that one a lot. But other than that, it's almost indestructible. And then Fairy Tale Wigs, I have both a Moana and an Alice base. Fairy Tale Wigs, their wigs are absolutely gorgeous and they feel like real human hair. I've never gotten the styling services done from them, so I can't really tell you how those turn out because I don't have any experience with them. But their base wigs are very soft. They feel like real hair. They do tangle a lot, just kind of how real hair tangles because it's so smooth, but people always ask if that's real hair when it goes out. Okay, so then the next question I have is how many wigs do I have? So kind of just counting all the ones that I just mentioned. So I have a Jane, two Ariels, Leia, two Wonder Woman, a Batgirl, Moana, Cinderella, two Rapunzels, two Annas, two Elsas, a Merida, a Tinkerbell, an Alice, an Aurora, a Snow White, and a Belle. So I have a lot of wigs. And then my friend, Chicago Princess Sarah, who works for my company, she owns an Elena, a Pocahontas, and a Town Belle. Then right now I have a Jasmine and a Dorothy coming, and then I also have a second Cinderella coming. So wigs are easier. I recommend having two of each just because it's easy to then take one, send it in to get restyled, and then you can use the other one in the meantime. That way you don't lose out on bookings while that wig is away, and then you don't have to worry about that commissioner getting it back to you in a certain amount of time. Okay, so the next question is, how do I store my wigs? Like I said, at the end I'll be showing you a video of where exactly I store my wigs, but for right now, physically how I store my wigs is I put them all on a wig head, and then you take 2 pins and you put them right in these 2 spots. So you never want to put it on the part, and you never want to put it in the front, especially if you have lace, because then sometimes it will poke holes in it. So you always put it right here, kind of like the antennas, and that really holds it up. And I also kind of I clip the band in the middle in the front, and that stops the wig from pulling back on the wig head. And then I also try to put as many hair nets on as possible. For the long wigs, I usually put it up, and that way if somebody's walking by it, it doesn't catch the wig and pull it or anything like that. So pins and hair nets and wig heads, and I have wig head stands from Amazon as well that I just stick on my shelf. The next question is, how do I keep wigs nice during transport? So whenever I transport my wigs, I always bring it with the wig head on, with as many nets as possible, and of course like those 2 pins, and then I always clip it in the front as well so that it doesn't fall off. And then I also bring it in a box, so I usually save most of the boxes that I get when I do get a wig commissioned and they get it sent to me. I keep all those boxes just because that way I can transport it easily. Or if I'm traveling with more than 1 wig, I take a laundry basket, and then I take the boxes and then I put the wigs in there. A good way to also do it, if you want to do this, is get some Velcro. Velcro the bottom of the wig head and Velcro it onto the bottom of the box, or you can even like hot glue it or tape it or something like that. That way if the box gets shifted around, it doesn't fall anywhere. Okay, so the next question I got was my favorite way to wash wigs. So I've only had experience washing a wig once. Most of the time when my wigs get nasty or dirty, I just either buy a new one or I send it in to get it restyled. So I've only washed a wig once, and that was Moana, just because she was getting really dirty and gross. I looked this up online. I literally just watched YouTube videos to figure out how to do it. And so first you want to brush out the wig as much as possible. You don't want any tangles in there, because as soon as you put it in the water and it dries, it's going to be like fused together. So you want to separate the hair just like into sections and pin it up and brush out each section very carefully to make sure you get all of the knots out. I usually use a pretty soft bristle brush at first. That way if it does get stuck on a knot, it kind of goes over it. Then after that I used a wide tooth comb. That way when you go back over it, we'll get all of those knots that are stuck in there. You could be a little bit more gentle with the comb and figure that out. Then after you do that, I took some laundry detergent. I cleaned out my sink, my kitchen sink, and then I filled it with water, with like lukewarm water, and I put laundry detergent in there, and I kind of just like mixed it up with my hand. And then you just press the wig in. And so you want to like focus on make sure to detail at the hairline and places where makeup would be. And then you just kind of like massage it into there. And then I left it there, I think, for about 15 minutes. So then after the 15 minutes was over, I kind of took it out. I put it on the other side of the sink. I drained that out of the sink, and then I filled it up with more water and put fabric softener in there, and I did the same thing. Now when I did it, I think I used a little bit too much fabric softener because the smell was very strong. But I filled it with fabric softener, and then I did the same thing. I massaged it in. I did about half a cap full, so I think half a cap full of fabric softener was a little bit too much. So you probably want to do a little bit less than that just to make sure the strong smell doesn't affect it too much. And then after that, you take it right back out and you brush through it again. So with a brush and then with a wide tooth comb, I just put it on a wig head, and make sure to put a towel underneath so that when it drips right into the towel, not into your carpet or on the floor. I got lots of water on the floor when I first started taking it out. And then to dry it when you're done brushing it, hang it over a doorknob. You don't want to leave it on a wig head because then the inside of the cap will stay wet and it could get moldy or gross or anything like that. So I just hung it over a doorknob. Make sure to put a towel underneath that so that any time that it just drips right onto the towel and you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, that's the only time that I've ever experienced washing a wig. The fabric softener made it lovely. It was a Fairy Tale Wigs based Moana, which is what I did it on. And ever since then, I've been able to run a brush through it so easily, just like it's regular hair. So I would highly recommend washing those wigs, especially if there's not a style to it like Moana. It's really easy to just wash that and then brush it right out. So the next question was how to get my wigs not to rat underneath. So this is a huge thing that always happens to me. There's not really much you can do while you're wearing them, unless you're talking about a braid, in which case you could put a braid pillow underneath them. I believe Of Wishes and Whimsy makes a braid pillow. I got mine from my friend Sprinkle Dust Cosplay. She made one for me. If you just take that braid pillow and you pin it, or you twist tie or zip tie it to the side of the braid, and then you you sew it onto the dress so that it stays on there. I know people do that for Elsa and Rapunzel, maybe even Anna if you need that as well. But that helps with the braids. When it comes to the regular hair, you just gotta brush it out in between each wear. And it really does stink because after the first time you wear it and the first time you brush it, it's just not gonna look as nice. But if you brush it out in between each wear, it's definitely going to stop it from ratting as much underneath. And then the next one was how to keep frizziness down. So again, it's the same thing where you wanna brush in between wears. Another thing that I do when I brush out my wigs is I take a spray bottle and I put half conditioner and half water, and then I mix it all up. I haven't really used any specific hair conditioner, but when you spray that on the wig, it really smooths it so that when you brush it, your brush runs through it a lot faster and it helps with the tangles. One thing that I have noticed that if you use too much conditioner in the spray bottle, it will end up leaving a residue on top, so it kind of feels sticky. So using a small amount of conditioner is definitely better, and making sure not to spray too much on it, but it really helps with those rats and with those knots that you really need to get out and you really can't figure out a way to do it. You just mix the conditioner with the water, spray right on the wig, and it makes the knots come out a lot faster. The next question was how to keep curls nice. So one thing that you can do when you're wearing it is make sure not to move too much. I know that sucks, but especially when I'm wearing my bell, I try not to lean up against the back of the car too much. I don't move around like this too much. I kind of stay as still as possible, making sure not to move your hair around like this and just keep moving the curls. Just leave them wherever they are when you put them on, and then don't try to move them too much. Now when your curls do get frizzy, because it does happen, so you want to take each individual curl, and so then you brush out the curl. I usually use a brush at first, and then like I said, the wide tooth comb after that. And then after you brush out completely and you're holding it as straight as possible, you wrap it around your two fingers, and then you just kind of pull it out, and then it becomes bouncy again. It's not going to be as bouncy and as curly as the very first time you wear it, but it will be a lot better. I did that with our bell, and our bell lasted a whole year without restyling, simply because I did that between each wear. Try not to use too much hairspray. So hairspray can really ruin wigs, especially because to fix that, you just have to wash it off. So you really want to make sure not to put too much hairspray on it. I use that conditioner and water mixture, and that kind of holds like a hairspray a little bit. So the next question was, where do I get base wigs? Arda is the main one that I've always heard about, and then also Epic Cosplay. So those are the two that I would recommend buying from. I've never specifically bought one and had one shipped to me where I get to open it and see it unstyled. But those are the two places that I know that a lot of commissioners use. And then the third one I would say is Fairy Tale Wigs. That's the only one that I've actually ordered a base wig from them. Now I can say I ordered their Rapunzel wig and I tried to style it and I just could not style it. And after doing a lot of research, I realized that Fairy Tale Wigs is kind of hard to deal with on your own. It was very difficult for me to figure out how to style it. However, their base wigs on their own are just gorgeous. They're very smooth, they're very soft, they're very easy to brush through. So I would say that if you're going to buy a wig to keep it down, Arda and Epic Cosplay are the two main ones that I hear of often that commissioners use, and then Fairy Tale Wigs. I got some base wigs from them as well. Okay, so then the next question was, if I have a short time notice, where would I get a wig from? If it ever comes down to the fact that I do have a problem with one of my wigs and I do have to order another one really fast in order for a party this weekend, I would just go to Amazon. We used to get all of our wigs from Amazon, and some of them were definitely better than others. I know that I've never ordered them personally. Chicago Princess Sarah always ordered them. But some of the ones that we had looked really nice, and some of the ones that we had weren't as much. So Amazon is definitely a good place for just a quick backup if you absolutely need to. And just because they do get it within 2 days, and some of them don't look too bad. And then another place, if you want to start researching some local wig shops, I know that there is a local wig shop near me that we would get some base wigs from, and because they were such high quality wigs and you were able to try them on to see the colors, those were a lot easier as well. And then while you're there, you can ask them advice on how to put a certain style together, or you could see the length of something, make sure that if you buy extensions, it matches the same hair color and stuff like that. So those are definitely some places that you want to look for in your area, just so that if you do have a last minute emergency and you need a quick wig, that you can just pop over to a local wig shop, ask them for advice, and stick it on before your party. The other question I got was really interesting one. So it said, what wigs are styled easily? And you don't need to buy nice quality at first. So the ones that I would say that you can get away with getting them from Amazon, the nicer ones. So I would say Cinderella and Tinkerbell. We had our Cinderella / Tinkerbell. We used the same one for both. We got that from Amazon, and so that one was just like a little pixie cut, and then it just came with a little bun that you just like clipped on, and it did actually look pretty nice, especially with the headband on for Cinderella, and then you put the little green ribbon around it for Tinkerbell. That one lasted a really long time, so that one I would say you'd be able to get quickly off of Amazon if you really need a Cinderella. The next one would be Moana. Moana we had from Amazon for a really long time, especially because Moana isn't a specific style. I think you could definitely get away from ordering one from Amazon and having that last for a while. The problem with some Amazon wigs is they're not completely brushable, so as soon as it does get knotted, you just have to get rid of it. The next one is Snow White, a short curly black wig on Amazon. It just works for Snow White, especially because you could just brush right through it. You can decide if you put the headband on and you just want to take the bangs and tuck it under the headband, that works too. The next ones I said were Anna and Elsa, just because you can braid those. Most people know how to braid, so if you just find a red or a white or blonde wig and you just braid it, sometimes that one looks just fine as Anna and Elsa. I would definitely recommend trying to get all of these wigs from a higher end commissioner, but if you absolutely have to go from Amazon at first because you're just starting out and you don't have enough money for your first cosplay, then I would definitely just go for Amazon. But these are the ones that you can definitely get away with doing them on Amazon. And then the last one I said was Merida. We had a Merida from Amazon, but again, it wasn't brushable, so every time we went to brush it, a bunch of hair would come out, and it was a huge problem. So then the next ones that I think you could be able to get on Amazon if you know how to style wigs nicely are Ariel and Aurora. That's just because most of their hair is just down, so you just need to brush through them. You only can really do Ariel and Aurora if you know how to style bangs. If you know how to do a quick, easy style to a bang, then you can definitely just find a red or blonde wig on Amazon and use that. The ones that I would say just to go straight to good quality at first is Rapunzel, Belle, and Jasmine. Those are the three that I would say just go straight for the high quality. Rapunzel is mostly just because of how thick and long the braid is. If you get them from Amazon, they're usually thin or they're a really, really bright color. They're not very long, so you're not going to like those as much, whereas when you get it from a commissioner, they put tons of wigs together, they sew them together, and it looks a lot better. Belle, I know that a lot of cheaper places that sell Belle, they do the old Belle wig where it's just kind of like a bun and a ponytail, and it's definitely a lot thinner, and then the bangs are always just off. Sometimes they just fall flat and sometimes they go over the side, but you can usually see where the edge of the wig starts with Belle, and that's, I think, one of the biggest problems with Belle. And then Jasmine, again, it's kind of like Rapunzel, where it's just so thick and long that if you go to a cheaper place, it's just going to be thinner and it's just not going to look as nice. Next question is, how do you put long hair under a wig? So as you can see, I do have very long hair, so I've had experience doing this. So the main three ways that you can do it is braid, pin curls, or just doing a little tiny bun in the back. So the first thing, obviously, is braid. So this is how I used to do my wigs, and this is how I always thought was the best and only way to do wigs for longer hair, is you just braid both sides and then you just pin them up like this on either side, and then you just put the wig cap on top of it. You always should use a wig cap. When you don't use a wig cap, your hair is going to fall out. But like I said, if you braid it and then you crisscross them on top and bobby pin them everywhere, then the wig cap is going to fit on top, and that's also going to be a way for the wig to hold on, because those bobby pins are going to be under there, and that texture is going to be good for the wig to hold on to. It's the same thing with pin curls. So pin curls, the way that you just do pin curls is you just kind of twist your hair and then you twist it around your fingers. You usually want to twist it first, and then each pin curl you go like this, and then you just bobby pin it in place, and you do that all over your whole head. I know that that's probably the best way to do it. I hear that that's what all the professionals do on Broadway and stuff like that. I know that the pin curls are definitely the best way to do it. Like I said, all those bobby pins in there are good things for your wig to hold on to, and it also is the best way to make your hair as flat as possible. So if you have a ton of hair and you have a really thin wig that you're trying to get on, definitely go with the pin curls. And so the last one is the one that I do just because I'm lazy. I don't like pin curling my hair and I don't like braiding my hair. I like to just do a back bun. So if you just I just put the wig cap on and then I twist my hair around like this, and then I twist it in a bun in the back, and then I just stick that into the wig cap. And that's what I do every time, just because it's so easy and it just goes so fast. But then you can also get the wig caps that do have the holes at the top, and that's, I know that's what Disney actually uses. So then you put that over like a headband, and then you bring your hair down, and because there's a hole at the top, you flip it over the top like this, and then you tuck the top of the wig cap in. I can definitely show you guys how to do that. I can show you how to do all the different methods and stuff like that, but if I did all of that in this video, then it would just take way too long. So I will definitely make some videos. Maybe I could just do a video on how to put your hair in a wig cap. The next question was, what was the first commissioned wig I ever got? And that was Ariel. So Ariel's my favorite. I always worked for Chicago Princess Sarah, so I didn't need to provide my own wigs for myself. But then one day I just decided I really wanted my own Ariel wig, and I spent months doing research on a good Ariel wig. Before I was part of this community, I really didn't know where to get anything, and this was about 2.5 years ago, so I didn't know where to get anything. I started hashtagging Ariel wig on Instagram. I started looking on Etsy, and it's hard because you want to make sure that you're getting a good quality item, and that's when I found Gleam and Glow, and he actually hadn't done an Ariel yet, so I messaged him and I said, hey, have you done an Ariel yet? I love all of your wigs. And he said, yes, I'm actually working on it right now. And then the next day sent me a picture of his wig, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best Ariel I've ever seen. I think there were definitely less commissioners back 2.5 years ago too. So then I bought that from him, and that's probably one of the reasons why most of my wigs are from him, just because he was my first one that I commissioned from, and so I had such a great experience with him that I just kept going back. The next question was if I'm reselling any old wigs. So I don't usually resell old wigs as often as I resell old costumes. Wigs, I think I definitely went for the highest quality that I could get at first, so I don't really need to upgrade any of my wigs per se. So instead of reselling my old ones and getting new ones, I simply just send in the ones that I have now to get restyled. I definitely think if you just start off with getting a wig with a good base wig, then you can just keep getting it restyled as much as possible. So somebody asked off the wall wigs. I don't know if you meant on the wall wigs. I know that there is a shop called On the Wall Wigs, and while I haven't specifically bought from them, my friend Becky, Sprinkle Dust Cosplay, has bought from them, and I got to wear their Cinderella wig, and I thought it was gorgeous. It was very sturdy, it was very thick, it was very well styled. I really liked the way it looked on me, so yeah, the wig that I've seen in person from them was very, very good. So those were all of the questions that all of you guys had for me, so now I'm just going to scroll through and start answering any of the questions that you guys left me on here. What's your favorite hairspray to use on your wigs? As I find it's hard to find one with a nice finish. So my favorite hairspray to use on wigs is called Got to Be Glued. I don't have any right now because I haven't been able to find it in a while. Usually you can just find it at Walmart, but I haven't been able to find it on Walmart for a really long time. It's very, very thick and very, very sturdy. So you do not want to use that on curls because then the curls will just stay in place and they'll get crunchy and gross. However, I've noticed that if you even have a hair that's sticking in the exact opposite direction, if you just put it back and spray it with this and hold it for like 2 seconds, it stays there. It does not move. I know that I use that for my Ariel bangs, and you know how Ariel bangs just defy gravity. So I've used that on my Ariel bangs before, and that it does not move. So I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's called Got to Be Glued, and it's usually in a yellow bottle. It looks kind of like an air horn the way that it's shaped. Where would one find good quality but relatively cheap wigs? We kind of went over this a little bit with the Amazon stuff. I definitely recommend Royal Enchantments. I even have some wigs from her still, and their stuff is great, and she's not too expensive. Most of her wigs are under $200, if not all of her wigs are under $200, and they're great stuff, so I would definitely recommend trying her out. I have her Merida, her Tinkerbell, and they're both gorgeous. I love them so much, so if you guys want to go and try her out, those are the only wigs that I have from her, so I can't really give any information about any of the other ones, but the ones that I do have from her are absolutely amazing. How do you restyle the Ariel bangs? So I've never specifically restyled my Ariel bangs, and the way that I take care of mine specifically is I take the pieces that are falling out and I brush through them very slightly with a very, very wide tooth comb. I usually use like those picks with the metal teeth on them. So I usually pick out the bangs a little bit from that, and then if you take one pin and where the aerial bang goes up, I put one pin there just to hold that up a little bit, and then I put one pin at the end so that it makes that shape, and then I just spray the heck out of it. If you use the Got to Be Glued, it completely stays in place. So I spray the heck out of it, I smooth it over a little bit, and then I just let it sit there on the pin, and it usually stays pretty nicely. So the next question is, are my wigs human hair? To my knowledge, none of my wigs are human hair. I hear that when you use human hair wigs, it doesn't stay in place, it tangles really easily. So a lot of places do use synthetic hair. Most places, I believe, use synthetic hair. One thing that I can say, that even if a wig says that it is not heat resistant, you can still use hot rollers. The way that the non-heat resistant ones, they just hold better. That way that when you put them in the hot roller, because hot rollers usually have felt or velvet or something in between, that protects them. So it just kind of melts it a little bit enough to hold that curl so that when you undo it, it still stays really nicely. So just know that you can use hot rollers whether your wig says that it's heat resistant or not heat resistant. I love their wigs. I don't have one, but I'd love to get one. Do you think they're worth their money? I'm assuming you're talking about Gleam and Glow, just because I have most of my wigs from Gleam and Glow. I definitely think Gleam and Glow was worth the money. Like I said, most of my wigs are from Gleam and Glow. So far, each wig has lasted about a year. They are very, very easy to restyle slash refurbish. I guess I more refurbish than restyle. But in between each wear, you just kind of brush out if any curls get frizzy. Every once in a while, you have to smooth over the bang with like a pick and hairspray. I can definitely give you some tips if you end up buying a specific wig from him that you want to know how to refurbish, since I do that. But yeah, his wigs are absolutely amazing. Do they get messy slash frizzy easy? Not that I've ever noticed. I mean, Ariel and Aurora are probably the hardest, just because any wig that's slightly curly but not completely curly, they do get matted and knotted underneath, but no more than any of the other wigs that I've had. If anything, his wigs last longer than any of the other wigs that I've ever had. They're very sturdy. They're put together super nicely. He hairsprays them, and mine travel in between in cars a lot too, and they've always stayed super nice. I'm debating between getting a Fairy Wig Mother's Elena wig or Gleam and Glow Elena. Thoughts, comments, which would you prefer? So my friend Chicago Princess Sarah has a Gleam and Glow Elena, and I would definitely recommend it. I think both of them have about the same wait time. Whenever he's accepting wigs, it usually takes him about 1 to 2 months. Fairy Wig Mother's also takes about 2 months, so that's about the same. I want to say that Fairy Wig Mother's is probably cheaper. I know that Gleam and Glow does have more expensive wigs, but they are very sturdy. Like I said, the Elena is probably one of the sturdiest ones that I've ever had. Sarah just kind of brushes out the ponytail in between, and that's really about it, and it's lasted over a year. So I would definitely recommend his Elena over any of the others. I know even when seeing his Elena next to other people's Elenas, I definitely like his the best. He has the curls and the swoops down perfectly compared to the movie and all of her artwork, so I would definitely recommend getting Gleam and Glows, but I recommend Gleam and Glow for almost everything. How do you keep it in place so it doesn't fall? I'm not sure whether you mean the style or the actual wig. I know a lot of people, I'll answer both questions. Leaving the wig on your head, if it's slipping off of your head and stuff like that, a lot of people use U-pins. I don't know if it's just the shape of my head, but my wigs always stay on pretty well. They never fall off. So if you use some U-pins and you stick them in all around in different angles, whatever angle it's falling from, stick it in from the opposite angle, and that's what a lot of people use to keep their wigs in. Definitely putting some here and then in the back too, to hide all of your neck hair in the back too. Those are definitely good places to put them. The way that I keep styles in places is just the Got to Be Glued hairspray and then bobby pins a lot. I also use nets a lot, so my Cinderella actually has a blonde net that stays over her constantly, so that never comes off. You can put nets over braids to make sure those don't fall off. I definitely try to net as much as possible, just because those nets stop the hair from getting frizzy and flying all over the place. Next question is brown or red Ariel in my opinion. So I've always gone for the red. I know that the Parks uses brown, I'm assuming. So the reason that I believe the Parks uses brown is just because it looks better on everyone's skin tone. And it's not completely brown, it's more of like an auburn brown. In the movie, her hair is completely red and it's almost Crayola red. So I definitely like red. You want to look for a deeper red color though, just because when you flash on a bright red, sometimes it comes back yellow or orange. But that's definitely the color I recommend, which is why it's the one that I have. If you do another episode on wigs, could you go over how to pin them with bobby pins not showing? I know that I always try to hide things, so if you pick up part of the hair and then put the bobby pin and then put it over it. Also taking a bobby pin and spray painting it, the exact color of the wig. If you go to the store and just find some spray paint that's the exact same color as the wig, then you can just stick that right in and you won't even have to see it. Otherwise, I just kind of layer it. Sometimes you do in and out like that so that part of it is covered and then you can spread the hair over. But we can definitely talk about hiding some bobby pins in the next video as well. What's the hardest part of restyling wigs? I think just not making it look as good as it did in the first place. Every time I get a wig, I'm absolutely floored and stunned by how amazing it looks, and then I can never fix it the exact same way. I think I'm too much of a perfectionist and not patient enough for it, so I always get my wigs restyled by other people. Where do I get my hot rollers? I get them at Walmart, and then the hot rollers, the way that they heat up, so it's a bin like this, and there's a lid to it that flips up. So the hot rollers go on these rods in the middle, and it plugs in. So the rods in the middle heat up, and then it heats up the hot rollers so that when you take the hot rollers out, they're hot already. And like I said, there's like a felt layer on top. It is kind of warm, so you can almost burn your fingers by touching it, so you kind of have to move quickly. And then you roll your hair with it, and then there's a clip that goes on top, and you let that sit until it's completely cool. And then you just take them out, and then they're great. When it comes to wig caps, what style do you prefer? The solid ones or the ones that are open? So I prefer the solid ones without the holes. The ones that do have it open at the bottom, which are like a headband or sweatband like you said, they end up being tighter on the band up here simply because the rest of it is not as tight to fit your hair in there. So these bands at the top end up being tighter because that's really the only thing that's holding in. Where I have noticed that the solid ones, which are more like nylons, are kind of tight all over. Every once in a while, I'll even use two of the like stocking type ones just to hold it on a little better, especially when you wear them for a while and they get stretched out. I used a couple on top of each other. The ones that are headbands or sweatbands that are kind of like that, the bands end up being tighter and I always get headaches from them and I just can't wear them. It's really up to personal preference. I would recommend trying out both, wearing each of them for just a half hour around your house, seeing which one feels more comfortable on you. Why are lace caps preferred? I really don't know. I think the ones with the holes at the bottom, if that's what you're talking about, I think they're preferred just because they can make your hair smoother than any other option, because you do put your hair in and then you take your hair and you flip it over, and once it's in you can kind of move your hair around to smooth it out around underneath, whereas the regular like stocking type caps that look like tights, you end up having to do something to your hair underneath before you put it on because it will not hold your hair if you just shove it up there. So I'm assuming that's why they're preferred. I know Disney uses them. I'm assuming that's for a reason. What wigs are you going to buy in the future? I'm probably just going to start buying doubles of all the wigs that I have. Right now, all the wigs that I have are absolutely perfect, and I love them. I don't think I want a different color, a different style, so I'll probably just end up buying the exact same wig over again. That way I can send out two characters. Princess vlogs, I plan on doing them in the future. I plan on doing singing videos and makeup tips. I will do another live video on makeup, so I'll talk about false eyelashes then, as well as some makeup tutorials. Thank you guys so much for joining. I had so much fun giving you guys more information. So I will just take this off and I will flip this around so that you guys can see where I keep all my wigs.